In the kingdom of wolves, mercy is a luxury only the strong can afford, and for an Omega with nothing left to lose, a single act of kindness becomes a death sentence. She stands at the market's edge with hollow eyes and trembling hands. Kira, an Omega whose wolf never came, clutching her last copper coin like it's a lifeline. Because it is. One coin, one meal, one more day between her and starvation. In a world where worth is measured by the ferocity of your transformation and the dominance of your howl, Kira possesses neither. Her wolf sleeps silent and dormant, refusing to wake. The pack calls her broken, defective, less than nothing. They kick her aside in the streets, deny her even the scraps from their tables, and remind her daily that she exists only by their mercy. She's learned to make herself small, to move through shadows, to survive on what others discard. But today, survival demands a choice. At the traveling merchant's cart, pushed into the shadows where decent, wolves won't look, sits a wooden crate. A burlap sack covers whatever lies inside, and a warning is scrawled across the wood in red paint. Forbidden bloodline, death to any who harbor it. The merchant won't meet her gaze when she approaches. Cursed goods, he mutters, voice tight with fear. Already killed its previous owners. One copper coin, and it's yours, if you're fool enough to take it. Through the slats, Kira sees movement. Something small and dying. A wolf pup, barely breathing, covered by that rough sack like a condemned prisoner awaiting execution. The creature whimpers, soft, broken, forgotten. Just like her. The copper coin burns in her palm. She could buy bread, fill her belly, live another day in her miserable, hollow existence. Or she could spend it on something the entire world has already given up on. Her stomach screams, her heart whispers. She makes her choice. What Kira doesn't know, what she can't know, is that beneath that burlap sack, the dying pup bears silver and crimson markings that haven't been seen in 150 years. Markings of the Thornclaw bloodline, a royal house that her pack's alpha helped exterminate before she was born. Markings that trigger ancient kill orders still enforced across every territory in the realm. She doesn't know that in 48 hours, pack enforcers will surround her crumbling hovel with execution orders for them both. She doesn't know that her own broken transformation was never a failure at all, but a magical suppression hiding the same forbidden blood. She doesn't know that her single act of mercy will resurrect an extinct bloodline and paint a target on her back that every alpha in the kingdom will unite to destroy. Before we begin, remember to subscribe for more dark fantasy tales where one choice changes everything. All it took was one coin and the courage to save what everyone else had abandoned. But in the kingdom of wolves, mercy is treason. And some bloodlines refuse to stay buried, especially when you water them with compassion. 2 days, that's all the time between kindness and a death sentence. The hunt is about to begin. The smell of roasted meat made Kira's stomach clench so violently she had to grip the market stall's edge to stay upright. 3 days since her last real meal. 4 since the butcher's wife had thrown spoiled scraps at her feet and told her even rats deserved better. She pressed herself against the weathered wood, making herself invisible the way Omegas learned to do. Around her, the Silver Pine pack moved through the market square with the easy confidence of those who belonged. They laughed. They ate. They existed without apology. "Move, broken thing." A shoulder slammed into her back. Marcus, one of Alpha Garrick's enforcers. He didn't even look at her as she stumbled forward, catching herself before she fell. Laughter rippled through the nearby crowd. A she-wolf spat at Kira's feet. "Wolfless trash! You make us all look weak!" Kira's hand closed around the copper coin in her pocket. One coin, one meal. She could taste the bread already, feel it filling the emptiness that had become her constant companion. Just one more day of survival. That's all any Omega could hope for. Then she saw the cart. It sat at the market's far edge, where decent wolves didn't venture, covered in faded canvas and reeking of fear. The merchant, a grizzled older man with haunted eyes, was hastily packing his remaining wares. Strange animals Kira had never seen before, creatures that didn't quite fit the natural world. But it was the wooden crate half hidden in shadows that stopped her breath. A burlap sack covered whatever lay inside. The warning painted across the crate's side made her blood run cold. Forbidden bloodline, 1 copper coin. Death to any who harbor it. Through the slats, she heard it. A whimper. Soft. Weak. Dying. "Don't even think about it, girl." The merchant's voice was harsh, but his hands shook as he secured his cart. Death follows this one. Already killed its previous owners. Been trying to get rid of it for weeks. 1 copper and it's yours. But I'm warning you. Kira knelt beside the crate. Inside, beneath that rough sack, something small trembled with each labored breath. Another outcast. Another creature the world had condemned without mercy. Her fingers traced the copper coin. Bread or compassion. Life or death. Hers or its. She'd spent 19 years being kicked, starved, and reminded that her worth was less than nothing. 19 years of surviving while everyone wished she wouldn't. She knew exactly what it felt like to lie dying while the world walked past. "I'll take it." The merchant's eyes widened. "You're condemning yourself, girl." "I've been condemned since the day my wolf refused to come." Kira placed the coin in his trembling palm. "At least this way, I'm choosing what to die for." She lifted the crate, lighter than she expected. The pup inside, barely more than bones and matted fur. The crowd parted around her like she carried plague. Let them stare. Let them judge. She'd made her choice. The hovel at the territory's edge had never felt so far away. Kira's hands shook as she lit the single candle stub in her hovel, its flickering light barely pushing back the darkness. The crate sat in the center of the dirt floor, and from within came the sound that had haunted her entire walk home. Shallow, labored breathing that grew weaker with each passing moment. She knelt beside it, fingers hovering over the burlap sack. The merchant's warning echoed in her mind. Death follows this one. But death had been following her since the day her wolf refused to emerge. At least this creature didn't have a choice in its persecution. The sack came away slowly, carefully, and Kira's breath caught. Silver markings traced across the pup's face like lightning, frozen in fur, intricate, deliberate patterns that seemed to shimmer in the candlelight. But it was the crimson threading through the silver that made her heart stutter. Those markings. She'd seen them before, in the forbidden histories her mother used to whisper about when she thought no one was listening. Never speak of the silver-marked ones, Kira. Never. They were erased from this world for a reason. The pup's eyes opened, not the clouded gaze of a dying animal, but clear, intelligent, knowing. They fixed on her with an intensity that sent ice down her spine. Ancient eyes, eyes that had seen far more than any pup should. Kira reached out, hesitant, and placed her palm against the pup's matted fur. Warmth flooded through her, not physical heat, but something deeper. Recognition, connection, like two broken pieces discovering they were meant to fit together. The pup's breathing steadied under her touch. Slowly, impossibly, color returned to its gums. The trembling eased. Kira watched in stunned silence as the creature's eyes brightened, its chest rising and falling with increasing strength. "Thornclaw," she whispered, the forbidden name tasting like ash on her tongue. "Your Thornclaw bloodline." The pup's ears pricked forward. He, she somehow knew, lifted his head and pressed his muzzle against her palm, not seeking comfort, acknowledging her. Kira's mind raced. The Thornclaw bloodline had been exterminated 150 years ago. Every history book, every pack elder, every enforcer who'd ever sneered at her had made that abundantly clear. The silver-marked royals who'd ruled before the Great Purge. Gone. Dead. Extinct. Except this pup was very much alive. She watched as he struggled to his feet, wobbling, but determined. When she spoke, testing, asking if he understood, his ears swiveled toward her voice. When she gestured toward the bowl of water she'd salvaged, he moved to it without hesitation. Not animal instinct. Comprehension. "What are you?" The question came out barely audible. The pup, ashen, she decided, for the ash gray that dusted his silver markings, turned those ancient eyes on her again. And somehow, impossibly, she felt his response. Not words, not yet, but emotion, clear as spoken language. Survivor, hunted, alone, just like her. Kira curled up beside him as exhaustion claimed her, one hand resting on his warm fur. When sleep finally came, her dreams were filled with silver lightning and crimson warnings. She woke to dawn light filtering through the cracks in her walls, and froze. Ashen had doubled in size overnight. His markings blazed brighter, more defined. He sat watching her with those knowing eyes, and Kira understood with crystalline clarity. She hadn't just saved a dying pup. She'd resurrected something the entire kingdom had tried to bury. The sound of boots surrounding her hovel shattered the dawn silence. Kira jerked awake, instinctively pulling Ashen close as voices barked orders outside. Heavy, authoritative, many. The door exploded inward in a spray of splinters. Marcus filled the doorway, silver, blade gleaming in his fist. 3 more enforcers at his back. His eyes swept the room and landed on Ashen. The color drained from his face. "Gods below! It's true!" "Move aside." The command came from behind him, and the enforcers parted like water. Alpha Garrick stepped through, and Kira's heart stopped. In 19 years, she'd never been worth his direct attention. Alphas didn't acknowledge broken Omegas. They certainly didn't visit their hovels at dawn. His gaze fixed on Ashen, and rage contorted his features into something inhuman. Thornclaw. The word was a curse. After all these years, after everything we did to purge them. An elderly woman shuffled in behind him, Elder Miriam, the pack's ancient historian. Her hands trembled as she adjusted her spectacles, peering at Ashen's markings. When she spoke, her voice cracked with something between awe and terror. Silver and crimson in the lightning pattern, the royal sigil. There's no mistaking it. She looked at Garrick. This is Thornclaw blood. Pure lineage. Impossible. Marcus's knuckles whitened on his blade. We exterminated them 150 years ago. Your father himself led the coalition, Alpha. Every last one was... apparently not every last one. Garrick's voice dropped to something deadly quiet. He turned to Kira, and she saw murder in his eyes. Where did you get it? The market. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. A merchant. He was dying. You saved it. Garrick's laugh was bitter. Of course you did. The wolfless Omega with nothing left to lose saves the one creature that could destroy everything our fathers built. He stepped closer, and Kira instinctively moved between him and Ashen. Do you understand what you've done? The Thornclaw bloodline was erased because they threatened the natural order. Their power made them believe they could rule without challenge, could shield the weak and undermine pack strength. We cannot allow them to exist. Elder Miriam's voice quavered. The old laws are clear, Alpha. Any who harbor Thornclaw blood commit treason against all packs. Garrick straightened, and his pronouncement fell like an executioner's blade. By harboring forbidden blood, you have committed treason against the Silverpine Pack and every pack in this realm. The sentence is death. For both of you. He gestured to Marcus. Sunset. Public execution in the square. Let it serve as warning to anyone else who thinks mercy is more important than survival. They left, but Marcus remained in the doorway. For a moment, something almost like pity flickered across his face. Say your prayers, Kira. Make peace with whatever gods will listen. The door closed. Silence pressed down like a physical weight. Then Ashen's voice filled her mind, not words, but pure meaning flooding her consciousness. They killed my family, hunted us like animals, burned our home while we slept. Fear crashed through the connection, raw and overwhelming. They'll kill us too, unless we run. Kira stared at him, at those ancient eyes in that young face. Part of her wanted to accept it. She'd spent 19 years being worthless. Maybe dying for something mattered more than living for nothing. But Ashen was trembling, afraid, alone, and she'd be damned if she'd let them kill him too. Then we run. They ran while the sun still hung high when the execution platform was being built in the square. Kira's legs burned, her lungs screamed, but she didn't slow. Ashen kept pace beside her, larger than he'd been even that morning, his movements impossibly graceful for something so young. The hunting horn's wail shattered the afternoon air. They know! Kira gasped the words as she veered toward the forest. Behind them, shouts erupted, the thud of boots, the baying of tracker wolves. Marcus's voice cutting through it all. Find them! Don't let them reach the boundary! But Kira had grown up on the territory's edge, in the spaces no one else wanted. She knew every deer trail, every hidden path, every shortcut through the dense woods. Her feet found purchase where theirs would stumble. Her body, honed by years of running from cruelty, moved with desperate efficiency. The boundary stones rose before them like ancient sentinels, weathered markers carved with warnings in the old tongue. Beyond them, the forbidden territories stretched dark and wild, the lands cursed after the Thornclaw purge. No pack ventured there. No wolf crossed those stones. Kira didn't hesitate. The moment she passed the boundary, the air changed, thicker, heavier, alive with something that made her skin prickle. The trees grew denser here, their branches twisted into shapes that seemed almost deliberate. Moss glowed faintly in the shadows. Ashen's entire body began to shimmer. The pursuing footsteps slowed behind them. Kira heard Marcus curse. "The forbidden territories. They're insane." "Follow them." Garrick's voice was ice. "I don't care if you have to cross into hell itself. They don't leave these woods alive." The chase resumed, but something was different. The forest itself seemed to resist the pursuers, roots catching their feet, branches obscuring their path. And when Ashen stopped, head lifted, eyes closed in concentration, mist began to rise from the forest floor. It poured from nowhere, thick and impenetrable, swallowing them in seconds. Kira felt Ashen's presence in her mind. Not words, but intention. Hide. Follow. They moved through the mist like ghosts while their hunters crashed blindly behind them. But as the afternoon wore into evening, Kira heard something that turned her blood to ice. More horns, from different directions, different tones. Not just Silverpine. Ashen's thoughts whispered in her mind. Others. They've been waiting, watching. How many packs are hunting us? All of them. The realization hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't just about their pack's laws. There was a network, a conspiracy that had lasted 150 years, all dedicated to ensuring no Thornclaw ever drew breath again. As darkness fell, they found a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Kira collapsed against the cold stone, every muscle trembling. Ashen curled against her, and she felt his exhaustion matching her own. "We can't run forever," she whispered. His thoughts flooded her mind, sharp and clear. The ruins. Thornclaw Keep. It's 3 days north. The land still remembers us there. It's the only place their laws don't reach, the only place we might survive. Kira closed her eyes. 3 days, with every pack in the realm hunting them. Then we better not stop moving. Thornclaw Keep rose from the wilderness like a monument to forgotten glory. Massive stone walls choked with ivy, towers that had once pierced the sky now crumbling beneath centuries of neglect. Kira stared at it, breathing hard from their 3-day flight, and felt something stir in her chest. Not recognition, something deeper, belonging. Ashen moved forward, and the keep responded. Ancient doors groaned open on hinges that shouldn't still work. Crystals embedded in the walls flickered to life, casting pale blue light through corridors thick with dust. The air itself seemed to exhale, as if the fortress had been holding its breath for 150 years. Home, Ashen's thought whispered through her mind. It remembers. Kira followed him through passages that felt both alien and familiar, until they reached a chamber whose doors bore the silver and crimson lightning pattern. Inside, shelves lined the walls, packed with books and scrolls that had somehow survived the purge. Her hands moved without conscious thought, pulling volumes from shelves, searching for something she didn't know she needed, until her fingers brushed leather that felt warm to the touch. The journal was small, personal, its pages filled with elegant handwriting that made Kira's throat close. She knew that hand, had seen it on the few letters her mother left behind before she died of illness, when Kira was 7. "My name is Lyra Thornclaw, and if you're reading this, they've found me." The words swam before Kira's eyes. Thornclaw, her mother. Her mother was... I was 6 when the coalition came. 6 when I watched them burn my family alive. An elder hid me, placed the suppression on me, made me Omega so I'd be beneath notice. Powerless, broken, invisible. It saved my life and destroyed it at the same time. Kira's hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the journal. I gave birth to a daughter today, Kira, beautiful and perfect, and already I can feel the suppression taking hold. The magic recognizes Thornclaw blood and smothers it before it can emerge. She'll grow up thinking she's broken, and it will kill me to watch. But broken is safe. Broken means they won't hunt her. Broken means she might survive. The pages blurred, years documented in careful script. Her mother watching Kira fail her first transformation, celebrating privately because failure meant survival. Recordings of pack cruelty that her mother endured to keep the secret. Plans to tell Kira the truth when she was older, when it was safer. The final entry was dated 3 days before her mother's death. They know, I don't know how, but Marcus's father has been watching me. Tonight, I heard him telling Alpha Garrick's father about suspicions. I have to run, have to take Kira and disappear before... The sentence ended in a violent streak of ink. Kira pressed the journal to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Her mother hadn't died of illness. She'd been murdered. And Kira had been left alive only because they thought the suppression made her too powerless to matter. That's why, her voice cracked. That's why I never transformed. Why I've always felt like something was missing. Ashen pressed against her side, and his thoughts flooded her mind with gentle certainty. That's why I recognized you. Your blood called to mine. Your family, Kira. Your Thornclaw. Another scroll caught her attention. Historical records written by her ancestors. The truth about the genocide laid bare. The Thornclaw royals hadn't been tyrants. Their power was protection, shielding. They defended the weak, given sanctuary to Omegas, challenged the Alpha dominance that demanded submission. So the Alphas had united and burned them all. Kira looked at Ashen, then at her mother's journal, then at her own trembling hands. She wasn't broken. She'd never been broken. She'd been deliberately crippled to hide what she really was. Rage, white-hot and righteous, began to burn. The scrying crystal pulsed with sickly light as images swirled across its surface. Dozens of them, hundreds. Kira's stomach dropped as she watched pack after pack converge on their location. Silver Pine, Blood Moon, Iron Fang, Shadow Fen. Packs that had been enemies for generations, now united. Alpha Garrick's face materialized in the crystal, addressing an assembly of alphas she'd only heard about in stories. The Blood Hunt is called. The Thornclaw abomination and its Omega traitor are holed up in the ruins. Whoever brings me their heads claims the Western territories and a king's ransom in gold. Cheers erupted. Hunting horns sounded from every direction. Kira's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, watching through the crystal as armies mobilized. Thousands of wolves, enforcers, trackers, warriors who lived for the hunt, all converging on Thornclaw Keep. "They'll be here by nightfall." Her voice was hollow. "We're trapped." Ashen settled beside her, and she felt his thoughts, calm, measured, ancient beyond his young form. "There's a way to fight back." "Against that?" Kira gestured at the crystal. "We'd need an army." "We need what we are." Ashen's presence filled her mind more completely than before, showing her images. A ritual chamber deeper in the keep. Ancient glyphs carved into stone. Two figures standing in the center, power flowing between them. The awakening ritual. It can break your suppression, restore what was taken from both of us. Hope flared, dangerous and desperate. We'd be strong enough to survive, strong enough to defend ourselves, strong enough to show them why our bloodline terrified them. A pause, heavy with meaning. But the ritual changes us permanently. The Thornclaw markings will appear on your skin, visible to everyone. You'll never be able to hide what you are again. Every alpha in every territory will know your Thornclaw the moment they see you. The weight of it settled on Kira's shoulders. She'd spent 19 years invisible, dismissed, beneath notice. The suppression that had crippled her had also kept her alive. "If we do nothing," Ashen continued, "they break down these walls and kill us. We die as victims. But if we take back our power, we become what they fear most. We survive, but will be hunted forever. Marked, known, targeted. So the choice is die powerless, or live as a permanent target. I won't force this on you, Kira. This is your heritage, but it's also your choice. You've had enough decisions made for you." Kira closed her eyes, saw her mother's journal, those careful words documenting years of hiding, felt the phantom ache of every kick, every insult, every moment she'd been told she was worthless. Remembered the shame that had lived in her chest for 19 years, the belief that she deserved the cruelty because she was broken. But she wasn't broken. She'd been deliberately crippled by people who feared what she might become. The crystal showed the armies drawing closer, sunset approaching, death converging from every direction. Kira opened her eyes and looked at Ashen, at family she'd never known she had, at the last prince of a slaughtered bloodline, at the creature she'd saved with her last coin. "I'm done being ashamed of what I am." Her voice was steady now, hard as the stone beneath her. "I'm done running. I'm done hiding." She stood, legs solid beneath her, despite the fear, coursing through her veins. "Show me the ritual chamber. If they want to kill us for being Thornclaw, then let's give them something worth hunting." The chamber of bloodlines lay at the keep's heart, untouched by time or decay. Crystal formations grew from floor and ceiling like frozen lightning, pulsing with dormant energy. In the center, carved into the stone itself, the silver and crimson pattern blazed as if freshly painted. Kira's hands trembled as she stepped into the circle. Outside, hunting horns echoed closer. Inside, ancient magic hummed with anticipation. Ashen stood across from her, and through their bond she felt his certainty, his faith. "Together. Together," she whispered. The ritual words came from somewhere deep within, as if her blood remembered what her mind had never known. Ashen spoke them too, his voice, truly his voice, not just thoughts, ringing through the chamber for the first time. Young but commanding, royal. Their blood mingled in the carved channels, silver meeting silver, and the crystal formations erupted with light. Pain. Kira screamed as the suppression shattered. 19 years of magical chains breaking all at once, tearing through her like shrapnel. Her bones reshaped, her muscles expanded, every cell in her body igniting with power that had been locked away since birth. The wolf that had slept silent and dormant her entire life finally woke. And it was glorious. She fell forward, but she didn't hit stone. Her body was changing, shifting into a form she'd never achieved. Larger than she should be. Stronger. Her vision sharpened, colors intensifying. Her senses exploded outward. She could smell the armies miles away, hear their heartbeats, feel their intentions like physical weight. When the transformation completed, Kira stood on 4 legs for the first time in her life. Her fur shimmered silver with crimson threading through it like veins of lightning. The markings blazed across her face, down her shoulders, along her flanks, visible, unmistakable, proud. Power thrummed through her with every breath. This was what she was meant to be. This was what they'd stolen from her. Beside her, Ashen transformed. No longer a pup, but an adolescent prince, massive and regal, his markings brilliant against dark fur. He was beautiful, terrifying, everything their ancestors must have been before the purge. They spoke the final words together, voices, both human and wolf, resonating through the chamber. We are Thornclaw. We are the shield. We are the last. Magic detonated outward from the circle. Kira felt new abilities flooding her consciousness, the power to create barriers that nothing could break, to command the natural world, to make it respond to her will, to sense every wolf within miles, their locations, their emotions, their intentions laid bare. But the power surge was visible, audible, felt across the entire realm. Through her new senses, she felt them. Every alpha, every enforcer, every hunter, all of them turning toward Thornclaw Keep with murderous purpose. The psychic shockwave had announced their presence like a beacon. They knew. Everyone knew. Ashen's wolf form pressed against hers, and his thoughts rang clear and strong. Let them know. Let them see what they tried to destroy. Kira lifted her head and howled. It wasn't the howl of a broken Omega. It was the howl of Thornclaw royalty, announcing their return after 150 years of silence. Outside, the armies answered with rage. The siege was about to begin. They came with fire and silver and centuries of hate. The first wave hit the keep's walls before the echoes of Kira's howl had faded. Silver Pine warriors with weapons blessed in silver fire. Blood Moon berserkers who lived for battle. Iron Fang siege casters channeling destructive magic. Historic enemies standing shoulder to shoulder, united by one purpose: extermination. Alpha Garrick's voice boomed across the battlefield. Burn it down. Leave nothing but ash. Kira and Ashen stood atop the main tower, their markings blazing in the darkness. Below, siege ladders rose. Battering rams slammed against ancient doors. Fire arrows arced through the night sky. Kira reached deep into her newfound power and pushed. A barrier erupted from the keep's walls, shimmering silver and crimson energy that spread like wings. The arrows struck it and fell harmlessly. The rams bounced back, splintering. The siege magic dissipated against it like mist. "Again!" Garrick screamed. "Break through!" But they couldn't. Thornclaw power wasn't destruction. It was protection. Unbreakable. Absolute. For hours, the armies threw everything they had against the barriers. And for hours, Kira and Ashen held firm. Until Marcus shouted the truth. "We don't need to break them. Just wait them out. 2 wolves, no supplies, trapped in a dead fortress. Time is on our side." The assault stopped. The armies settled into siege positions, surrounding the keep completely. Garrick's laugh carried on the wind. "You're powerful, little Omega, but you're still just 2. We'll wait here forever if needed. You'll starve before we leave." Kira felt Ashen's presence surge in her mind. Not panic, purpose. There's one more thing they don't know about, one final power that survived. He led her back to the Chamber of Bloodlines, where the crystals still pulsed with energy. Ancient glyphs covered the walls, communication arrays that could reach every wolf mind in the realm simultaneously. "The truth," Kira whispered. "We broadcast the truth. Everything. Let them see what their alphas did. Let them decide if they want to be part of this genocide." They placed their paws on the central crystal, and it exploded with light. The memories poured out, not words, but experience. Every wolf within 100 miles felt it. The Thornclaw massacre as it happened. Children burning, families torn apart, elders begging for mercy while Alpha Coalition members laughed. The conspiracy laid bare. Thornclaw wasn't destroyed for tyranny, but for daring to protect the weak and challenge Alpha dominance. In the besieging camps, warriors stumbled, clutching their heads as the truth flooded them. They saw their own alphas participating in child murder, saw the lies they'd been fed for generations, watched innocent wolves die screaming. "No," someone whispered in the Blood Moon ranks, then louder. "No, this isn't what we signed up for." "They were protecting Omegas," a Silverpine warrior breathed. "They were sheltering the persecuted. That's why they were killed?" Garrick's voice cracked with desperation. "It's Thornclaw lies. Ignore it. Attack." But weapons were being dropped. Wolves were stepping back, horror and shame warring on their faces. Some even turned to face their alphas with accusation burning in their eyes. The siege was crumbling from within. And Kira and Ashen stood united, truth blazing from them like a beacon, forcing the realm to finally face what it had done. Dawn broke over Thornclaw Keep as the armies fractured. Entire battalions laid down their weapons, refusing to fight for leaders whose crimes they'd witnessed. Some even turned to face the keep's walls with hands raised in peace, silently declaring they would defend it rather than destroy it. Alpha Garrick stood alone among his enforcers, rage and fear warring on his face. Around him, other alphas were already retreating, their forces in shambles, their authority shattered by truth. "This isn't over," Garrick's voice carried across the battlefield, venom in every word. "You've exposed us, yes. But power doesn't die easily. We'll be watching, Thornclaw. Every moment, every breath. One mistake, and we'll finish what our fathers started." Kira stepped to the tower's edge, her silver and crimson markings blazing in the morning light. Her voice rang clear and unafraid. Let them come. We're not hiding anymore. The alphas retreated into the forest, but Kira knew Garrick spoke truth. This was victory, not peace. The war had only just begun. What she didn't expect was the others. They came in ones and twos at first, then in groups, Omegas cast out by their packs, wolves who'd questioned authority and been punished for it, those who'd been beaten down, starved, told they were worthless. They approached the keep's gates with hesitation, hope fragile in their eyes. A young Omega girl stepped forward, barely 14. Is it true that you protect the weak? Kira shifted to her human form, the thornclaw markings now visible as silver and crimson patterns traced across her skin. Ashen stood beside her, no longer a pup, but a young man bearing the same royal signs. Yes, Kira said simply. We protect those who need protecting. Ashen's voice was gentle, but firm. We can't rebuild what was. The old Thornclaw is gone. But we can create something new. A sanctuary where worth isn't measured by dominance, where the persecuted find refuge. By midday, dozens had gathered. By evening, the keep's halls, silent for 150 years, rang with voices again. Kira stood on the battlements as sunset painted the sky crimson and silver, watching her new family settle into their sanctuary. Ashen joined her, and she felt his thoughts, not words, but understanding, partnership, purpose. They'll come for us again, she said quietly. Let them. Ashen's smile was fierce. We're done running, done hiding. We're Thornclaw, and we protect our own. From the forest's edge, Kira sensed Garrick's presence, watching, waiting. The old powers hadn't accepted defeat. They'd regroup, plan, strike when the moment came. But Kira wasn't the starving Omega who'd spent her last coin on mercy anymore. She was Thornclaw, guardian, protector, and she'd defend this sanctuary with everything she had. 2 days ago, she'd saved a dying pup with her last copper coin. Now she stood guardian of a resurrected bloodline, marked and visible and unashamed, ready to shield those who couldn't shield themselves. The kingdom of wolves would never be the same, and neither would she.